3 years had passed since the humans joined the Galactic Council. Commander Ryan Bell stood on the observation deck of New Haven Colony, watching cargo ships land and take off from the spaceport. To anyone watching, this looked like a simple farming settlement. Fields of alien crops stretched to the horizon. Farmers worked the land with basic tools. But Ryan knew the truth. Those farmers were all former soldiers. The cargo ships carried weapons disguised as farming equipment. The grain silos were actually missile launch tubes. Every building had been designed to become a fortress if needed. Ryan walked to his office in what appeared to be the colony administration building. Inside, holographic displays showed the locations of 73 human colonies across the galaxy. Each one looked peaceful from the outside. Each one was actually a military base waiting for orders. Dr. Kate Wilson entered the room carrying data tablets. She had spent the last year working with Zephyrian scientists on what they thought was agricultural research. In reality, she had been reverse engineering their crystal technology to build better human weapons. The Zephyrians shared their energy amplification systems yesterday, Kate said. They think we want to make better crop growth lights. They have no idea we can adapt this technology for plasma weapons. Ryan nodded. What about the Malari biocomputers? Dr. Collins has been working on those. The Malari are so proud of. They're living machines. They love showing off how their computers can think and learn. Peter convinced them to let him study the basic programming. He says we can have weapons that adapt to any defense system within 6 months. On the other side of the galaxy, Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Davis was having lunch with a group of Krathan traders. They thought he was just a simple human merchant who bought and sold goods between worlds. They had no idea he was mapping every trade route, every supply depot, every military checkpoint in their territory. The Krathan leader, whose name sounded like clicking metal, was explaining their shipping schedules. We move grain from the outer colonies every 30 days. The convoy follows the same path each time. Very safe, very predictable. Marcus smiled and nodded. Predictable is good for business. No surprises. Inside his head, he was noting that this convoy would be easy to intercept. The Krathan valued efficiency over security. They had grown soft during centuries of peace. After lunch, Marcus sent a coded message to Dr. Helen Adams on the medical station orbiting Malari Prime. Helen had convinced the Malari that she wanted to study their healing techniques. The grateful aliens had given her access to their population databases, their medical facilities, even their genetic research. Helen now knew exactly how many Malari lived on each world, where their hospitals were located, and what diseases they were vulnerable to. She had detailed maps of every major population center. If humans ever needed to take Malari worlds quickly, they would know exactly where to strike. Meanwhile, Director Andrew Stone was giving a presentation to the Galactic Historical Society. He stood before a room full of alien scholars, showing images of human art and culture. The aliens were fascinated by human creativity, especially their military history. Your species has such interesting warfare patterns, said a Zephyrian historian. These battle formations from your World War II are quite complex. Andrew nodded enthusiastically. We learned much from our mistakes. Perhaps you could show me how your ancestors fought their wars. I am writing a book about how different species approach conflict. The aliens were happy to share. They brought out detailed records of their ancient battles, their strategic thinking, their weapon designs. They explained why certain tactics had failed, how they had learned to avoid violence, why their current peaceful approach was superior. Andrew recorded everything. By the end of the presentation, he had a complete analysis of how every major galactic species thought about warfare. He knew their blind spots, their preferred strategies, their greatest fears. That evening, Andrew met secretly with Captain Jake Russell, who was supposed to be running a farming cooperative on the planet below. Jake's real job was training colonists for combat. Every human settlement had people like Jake, veterans who taught civilians how to fight, how to use weapons, how to turn everyday tools into instruments of war. The Malari observers visited last week, Jake reported. They were impressed by our peaceful farming community. They have no idea that every person they met can strip and clean a rifle in 30 seconds. What about the children? Andrew asked. The young ones are learning just like back on Earth. Games that teach tactics, sports that build reflexes, stories that explain why humans fight when they need to. The aliens think we're just preserving our culture. Back on the main diplomatic station, Dr. Collins was having dinner with a group of alien scientists. They were celebrating a breakthrough in biological research that they thought would help feed hungry populations across the galaxy. What they did not know was that Collins had used their own research to develop biological weapons specifically designed for each alien species. He now understood their immune systems better than they did. He knew exactly which toxins would affect them, which diseases would spread fastest through their populations, which genetic weaknesses could be exploited. The dinner conversation turned to military history. The aliens were curious about human conflicts, seeing them as primitive but interesting examples of how species behaved before reaching enlightenment. "Your American Civil War," said a Malari scientist. "So much destruction over disagreements that could have been solved with discussion." Collins nodded sadly. "Yes, we were young as a species then. We had not learned the value of peace. But studying those conflicts taught us much about leadership, logistics, and the importance of unity." The aliens murmured agreement. They saw this as proof that humans had evolved beyond their violent past. They did not realize that Collins was actually explaining why human military thinking was superior to theirs. Humans had learned from thousands of years of warfare. These aliens had forgotten how to fight centuries ago. As the evening ended, Collins sent another coded report to his real superiors. Every piece of information was being collected, analyzed, and stored. The humans were building a complete picture of galactic civilization, its weaknesses, its resources, its defenses. The aliens continued to welcome humans into their society. They shared their knowledge freely, proud to help these eager students. They had no idea they were feeding information to apex predators who were preparing to rule them all. The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber opened with a low hum. Jonathan Hayes walked through them, his black suit clean and pressed. His face showed no fear, only a calm smile. Behind him came 6 other humans, all dressed the same way. They moved slowly, their hands visible, showing they had no weapons. The chamber was huge. The ceiling stretched up so high that Jonathan could barely see it. Around the curved walls sat hundreds of alien beings. Some looked like walking crystals that sparkled in the light. Others had long tentacles instead of arms. A few looked like giant insects with shiny black shells. All of them stared at the humans. Captain Lisa Morgan stepped forward. She was tall with short brown hair and wore a blue uniform with no military marks on it. Her ship, the UNS Harmony, waited outside the station. The aliens had scanned it many times. They found only basic weapons, the kind used to clear space rocks from shipping lanes. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," Lisa said. Her voice was clear and respectful. "We come from Earth. We seek friendship and knowledge. We have much to learn from your great civilizations." The lead Zephyrian floated forward. Its crystal body rang like bells when it moved. "You are the species called humans. We have watched your world for some time. You seem to fight often among yourselves." Jonathan nodded slowly. "Yes, we have had conflicts. But we have learned from them. We now seek peace. We want to join the galaxy as friends, not enemies." The Malari representative slid closer on its many tentacles. Its voice bubbled like water. "Your technology appears limited. Your ships are small. How can you offer anything to advanced species like us?" Dr. Peter Collins stepped forward. He was a thin man with gray hair and thick glasses. He looked exactly like what the aliens expected from a scientist. "We offer fresh perspectives. Sometimes a new way of looking at old problems can bring surprising solutions. We are eager students." What the aliens did not know was that Peter had spent 20 years studying alien biology from captured probe data. Every movement they made, every sound, every chemical they released, he was recording it all. His glasses were not just for seeing. They were scanning devices that measured heart rates, stress levels, and nervous reactions. Emma Rodriguez smiled warmly at the council. She appeared to be a simple cultural expert, someone who studied art and music. She spoke about human creativity and how they wanted to share their culture with the galaxy. But Emma was mapping every power structure in the room. She watched who deferred to whom, who showed fear, who seemed aggressive. In her mind, she was building a complete picture of how these species organized themselves. The insect-like Krathen clicked its mandibles together. "What do you want from us?" "Knowledge," Lisa answered quickly. "We want to learn your histories. We want to understand how you built such peaceful societies. Earth has known much war. We hope to learn from species who have moved beyond conflict." The council members looked at each other. Here was a species that admitted to being warlike but claimed to want peace. They seemed harmless enough. Their ships were weak. Their technology was basic. Their people appeared to be scientists, diplomats, and artists. Henry Clark sat quietly in the back. To everyone watching, he was just the ship's cook. He had brought samples of human food to share after the meeting. But Henry's eyes never stopped moving. He was counting guards, noting weapon positions, studying the room's layout. In his mind, he was already planning how a small team could take control of this chamber if needed. The Zephyrian's crystal body pulsed with different colors. "We will consider your request. But first, you must prove your peaceful intentions. You will place observers on your worlds. Your military activities will be monitored." Jonathan bowed his head. "Of course. We welcome observers. We have nothing to hide." This was true in a way. The observers would see exactly what humans wanted them to see. Dr. Kate Wilson spoke up. She looked young and eager, like a student excited to learn. "Might we also send observers to your worlds? We are so curious about your sciences, your cultures, your histories." The council agreed easily. They were proud of their achievements. Why not show them off to these primitive humans? Over the next hour, the humans answered questions with perfect humility. They praised the aliens' accomplishments. They asked for guidance like children seeking wisdom from elders. Every word was carefully chosen to make the aliens feel superior and generous. But behind each humble human face was a calculating mind. They were memorizing every detail, every weakness, every strength. When the Krathen mentioned their automated defense systems, Dr. Collins asked innocent questions about how they worked. When the Mullery spoke of their colony worlds, Emma wondered aloud about their beautiful locations. As the meeting ended, the council voted to accept humanity into the galactic community as junior members. They would be given access to basic trade routes and scientific exchanges. They would be welcomed as the galaxy's newest children. Jonathan shook hands with each council member, using the appropriate greeting for each species. His smile never wavered. "Thank you for this great honor. Humanity will not disappoint you." As the humans filed out of the chamber, the aliens felt good about their decision. These humans seemed grateful and harmless. They would make good students and possibly useful allies in time. None of them noticed that every human had perfect memory of everything they had seen and heard. None of them realized that behind those grateful smiles were the minds of creatures who had spent millions of years learning to hunt in packs, to plan attacks, to kill efficiently. The predators had been welcomed into the fold. The prey had no idea what they had just done. The attack on New Eden came without warning. Draconian warships dropped out of hyperspace at dawn, their dark hulls blocking out the morning sun. Admiral Orcs expected to find helpless farmers who would surrender quickly. The Draconians were known throughout the galaxy as fierce warriors. They had never lost a battle against peaceful colonies. Captain Jake Russell was drinking coffee when the alarm started. He set down his cup and walked calmly to the communication center. To the Draconian scanners watching from above, he looked like a frightened farmer trying to call for help. "This is New Eden Colony to approaching vessels," Jake said into the microphone. "We are a peaceful farming settlement. We have no military forces. Please state your intentions." Admiral Korex laughed as he listened to the transmission. His ship's weapons were already charging. "Human farmers, you will surrender immediately. This world now belongs to the Draconian Empire. Resist and we will destroy you all." Jake nodded to the other humans in the room. They had trained for this moment for 3 years. "I understand," he said into the microphone. "We are just simple farmers. We will not resist. Please give us time to gather our families." The Draconians waited. They were confident and patient. After all, what could farmers do against warships? That was their first mistake. The grain silos across New Eden suddenly opened. But instead of storing wheat and corn, they revealed missile batteries. Hundreds of rockets streaked into the sky toward the Draconian fleet. The missiles used Zephyrian crystal technology that the aliens had happily shared with their human friends. The weapons were invisible to Draconian sensors until it was too late. 3 Draconian ships exploded before they could react. Admiral Korek stared in shock as his fleet took heavy damage from what was supposed to be a farming planet. "Impossible," he snarled. "There are no military installations on that world. Our intelligence confirmed it." His communications officer was frantically trying to understand what was happening. "Sir, our scans show agricultural equipment everywhere. But somehow those grain storage buildings are launching guided missiles." On the ground, Jake was no longer pretending to be a scared farmer. He stood in the command center of what had appeared to be a simple barn. Holographic displays showed the battle unfolding above. Every human colonist was now at their combat station. Mary Peterson had been tending to her vegetable garden when the attack began. The Draconian scouts had watched her many times, noting how she carefully watered her plants and collected eggs from her chickens. They never suspected that she was a former Marine sniper. Her garden shed opened to reveal a high-powered energy rifle. Mary took aim at the nearest Draconian landing craft. The shot burned through the ship's hull like paper. Mary had spent months studying Draconian armor designs, courtesy of information gathered by human diplomats. She knew exactly where to hit for maximum damage. Bobby Chen had been fixing a tractor when the sirens wailed. The Draconians had classified him as a simple mechanic in their intelligence files. They were wrong. Bobby was a demolitions expert. His tractor shed was filled with explosives made from materials the helpful Malari had provided for mining operations. The first Draconian troops to land found themselves walking into perfectly planned kill zones. Every farmhouse was a fortress. Every tool shed was an armory. Every colonist was a trained soldier who had spent years preparing for this exact scenario. Admiral Korex watched his ground forces get destroyed with surgical precision. These were not panicked farmers fighting desperately. This was coordinated, military action by people who clearly knew what they were doing. "How many humans are down there?" he demanded. "Our count shows 3,000 colonists, sir, all listed as farmers, crafters, and their families." 3,000 farmers just destroyed half my fleet. The truth was becoming clear, but too late. The Draconians had been deceived completely. What they thought was a peaceful farming colony was actually a military base disguised so well that even their best intelligence officers had been fooled. Jake spoke into his communicator. "All units switch to Phase 2. Show them what humans can really do." The farmland itself began to change. Roads that had looked like simple dirt paths revealed themselves to be camouflaged military runways. Fighter craft that had been disguised as agricultural aircraft took to the skies. The chicken coops opened to release attack drones. Within 2 hours, the entire Draconian invasion force was wiped out. Not a single human colonist had been killed. The aliens who had spent centuries conquering peaceful worlds had been completely outmatched by creatures they thought were harmless farmers. News of the battle spread through the galaxy faster than light-speed communications could carry it. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. Representatives from every major species gathered to try to understand what had happened. Ambassador Jonathan Hayes stood before them once again. But this time, something was different about his smile. It was not the humble expression of a grateful species seeking guidance. It was the confident look of someone who held all the advantages. "Honored council members," Jonathan said, "I regret that violence has occurred. The Draconian Empire attacked our peaceful farming colony without provocation. Our colonists defended themselves as any species would." The Zephyrian representative's crystal body flashed with confusion. "Your colonists defeated an entire Draconian battle fleet. How is this possible?" Jonathan's smile widened slightly. Perhaps we have been better students than you realized. The Malari intelligence chief slid forward on her tentacles. Her voice bubbled with suspicion. We need to inspect all human colonies immediately. If New Eden was a military installation disguised as a farm, what about your other settlements? Of course, Jonathan agreed readily. We welcome inspections. We have nothing to hide. But it was already too late for inspections to matter. The Malari intelligence teams would find exactly what humans wanted them to find. After 3 years of careful preparation, human deception was too good to detect easily. In the weeks that followed, alien intelligence services began putting together the truth. Every human colony showed signs of military capability that had been completely hidden. Every human diplomat, scientist, and cultural attaché had been gathering information that could only be useful for military planning. The galaxy began to realize that they had been played by masters of deception. The species they had welcomed as eager students were actually apex predators who had spent 3 years learning everything about their prey while revealing nothing about themselves. The mask was starting to slip, and the predators underneath were far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike any in their history. The great chamber buzzed with fear and anger. Representatives from hundreds of species demanded answers. How had they been fooled so completely? What else were the humans hiding? Ambassador Jonathan Hayes walked into the chamber, but he was not alone this time. Behind him came Admiral Susan Carter in full military uniform. General Daniel Torres followed, his medals catching the light. Intelligence Director Rachel Webb carried a data tablet that contained secrets no alien had ever seen. The diplomatic mask was gone. These were not humble students seeking knowledge. These were military commanders who had been planning conquest from the very beginning. The Zephyrian Prime Speaker floated forward, its crystal body flashing with rage. You have deceived us all. Your colonies are military bases. Your diplomats are spies. What is the meaning of this? Jonathan's smile was cold now. The meaning is simple. We came here to take control of the galaxy. We just wanted to understand you first before we acted. The chamber erupted in shouts and threats. Species that had lived in peace for centuries were talking about war. The Malari representative waved its tentacles angrily. You used our own knowledge against us. We shared our technology freely. General Torres stepped forward. His voice was calm, but deadly. Every human child learns about war before they learn to read. We have been fighting each other for millions of years. You have had peace for so long that you forgot what real predators look like. Director Webb activated her data tablet. Holographic displays filled the air above the council chamber. The aliens stared in horror at what they saw. Detailed maps of every alien world. Complete analysis of every military installation. Personal files on every political leader in the galaxy. We know where you live, Webb said quietly. We know where you work. We know where your children go to school. We know which of your politicians can be bought and which ones will fight us. We have been watching and learning for 3 years. The Krathan military commander clicked his mandibles in disbelief. Impossible. Our security systems would have detected such extensive spying. Webb laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. Your security systems were designed to stop other aliens who think like you do. We think differently. While you were showing off your accomplishments to our cultural experts, they were mapping your weaknesses. Admiral Carter moved to the center of the chamber. The aliens could see that she was a warrior, not a diplomat. Her uniform carried battle honors from conflicts they had never heard of. You want to know what we learned about you? You learned to avoid war by becoming weak. You forgot how to fight because you never had to. You trusted us because lying for advantage is something you stopped doing centuries ago. The Malari intelligence chief bubbled with fury. We will unite against you. Every species in the galaxy will fight to stop human expansion. With what? Torres asked. Your exploration ships that carry scientific equipment instead of weapons? Your police forces that have never seen real combat? Your leaders who have never made life or death decisions under fire? The truth hit the aliens like a physical blow. They had built a peaceful civilization by forgetting how to wage war. They had ships designed for discovery, not destruction. They had governments built for cooperation, not conflict. They had never faced an enemy that understood violence the way humans did. The Zephyrian representative tried one last diplomatic approach. Surely we can negotiate. There must be something you want that we can give you without war. Jonathan laughed. We already have what we want, control. The question now is whether you will make this easy or hard for yourselves. Webb brought up another display. This one showed human fleet positions throughout the galaxy. The aliens realized with growing horror that human ships were already in position around every major world. What they had thought were trading vessels and exploration craft were actually warships waiting for orders. How long have you been planning this? The Krathan commander demanded. Since before we left Earth, Carter answered. We knew that any advanced galactic civilization would be soft. Peace makes species weak. War makes them strong. We stayed strong while you grew comfortable. The council chamber fell silent as the full scope of human planning became clear. This was not a sudden decision or an opportunistic grab for power. This had been a carefully planned operation that began before humans ever made contact with alien life. Dr. Peter Collins stepped forward. The aliens remembered him as a gentle scientist who asked innocent questions about their biology. Now they could see the predator that had been hiding behind his friendly smile. You want to know the real difference between us? Collins asked. When we studied your species, we learned how to kill you efficiently. When you studied us, you learned about our art and music. That is why we will win. The Malari representative made one final desperate plea. The galaxy will not accept human rule. You cannot control hundreds of species across thousands of worlds. Torres smiled grimly. We do not plan to control you directly. We plan to guide you. Each species will keep their own leaders, their own cultures, their own governments. But they will serve human interests. Those who cooperate will prosper. Those who resist will be removed. Director Webb closed her data tablet. The choice is yours. You can accept the new reality peacefully, or you can learn why humans became the dominant species on a world where everything tried to kill us. The chamber was silent. The aliens understood now that they were not dealing with another species, seeking membership in their peaceful community. They were facing apex predators who had spent 3 years positioning themselves for total victory. The hunt was over. The predators had revealed themselves, and their prey had nowhere left to run. The combined fleet was the largest military force the galaxy had ever assembled. Ships from every major species formed a massive armada in space above the neutral meeting world of Harmony Station. Admiral Thekvar of the Krathan commanded the fleet from his flagship, a vessel that had never seen real combat but was impressive to look at. The aliens had spent 2 months preparing for this battle. They gathered every warship, every defense platform, every weapon they could find. The fleet contained over 2,000 vessels from dozens of different species. Surely this massive force could defeat the humans. Admiral Susan Carter waited for them with just 47 human ships. Her flagship, the UNS Retribution, looked small and simple compared to the alien vessels. The human fleet seemed tiny against the enormous alien armada. Many of the alien commanders felt confident as they approached. That confidence lasted exactly 18 minutes. The battle began when Admiral Thekvar sent his ultimatum. Human fleet, you are outnumbered 40-1. Surrender now and your species will be allowed to return to Earth under supervision. Carter's response was brief. Negative. Prepare to be destroyed. The aliens attacked first, using the formal battle formations they had learned from their ancient military texts. Their ships moved in neat lines, firing their weapons in coordinated volleys. It was exactly what human intelligence had predicted they would do. Captain Tony Martinez commanded the destroyer UNS Vengeance. While the aliens formed their careful battle lines, he led his ship in a wild spiraling attack that confused their targeting systems. Human ships did not fight like the aliens expected. They used tactics learned from centuries of warfare against other humans. The first alien ships to die were the command vessels. Human intelligence had identified the weak points in alien command structures during 3 years of careful observation. While alien fleets needed constant communication between Ships human vessels could operate independently. When the alien commanders fell silent, their fleets began to fall apart. The Zephyrian crystal ships were beautiful but fragile. Captain Lisa Rodriguez used electromagnetic pulse weapons to shatter their delicate internal structures. The weapons were based on Zephyrian technology that they had freely shared with human scientists. The aliens watched in horror as their own knowledge was used to destroy them. The Malari bioships tried to adapt to human attacks, but Dr. Collins had spent years studying their biological systems. He had developed viruses specifically designed to attack Malari technology. The living ships began to die as human-made diseases spread through their organic computers. Admiral Thekvar could not understand what was happening. His massive fleet was being torn apart by a tiny human force. How are they doing this? We outnumber them completely. His tactical officer was frantically trying to analyze the human attack patterns. Sir, they are not following any known military doctrine. Their movements make no strategic sense. But the movements made perfect sense to creatures who had learned warfare on a world where every day was a fight for survival. Human tactics were not based on formal military theory. They were based on millions of years of hunting and being hunted. Within 3 hours, the combined fleet was destroyed. The few alien ships that survived did so only because they fled quickly enough. Admiral Thekvar's flagship drifted in space, its engines dead and its weapons offline. Carter opened a communication channel to the defeated admiral. This is Admiral Carter to all surviving alien vessels. The war is over. Prepare to receive boarding parties. The aftermath was not the brutal massacre the aliens expected. Human Marines took control of the surviving ships, but they did not execute the crews. Instead, they were processed quickly and sent back to their homeworlds with a simple message. The message was delivered by Director Andrew Stone, who now held the title of Governor of Galactic Territories. He spoke to the surviving alien leaders through emergency broadcasts that reached every world in the galaxy. People of the galaxy, Stone began. The war is over. Humanity has won. But we are not here to destroy you. We are here to guide you into a better future. The new system was called the Shepherd Doctrine. Each alien species would keep their own governments and cultures, but they would serve human interests. The Zephyrians would provide crystal technology for human ships. The Malari would use their biological expertise to improve human health and longevity. The Krathan would build factories to supply human expansion. Those who cooperated found their lives improved under human guidance. Human efficiency made their economies stronger. Human protection made their worlds safer. Human technology made their lives easier. Those who resisted simply disappeared. Entire planetary governments vanished. Overnight, rebel leaders suffered mysterious accidents. Opposition groups found their communications monitored and their meetings infiltrated. Captain Jake Russell, now promoted to colonel, administered the former Draconian territories. The warrior species that had once terrorized peaceful worlds now worked in human-supervised industrial complexes. Their fighting skills were redirected toward human military service under strict human command. Years passed. The galaxy settled into its new reality. Human governors ruled from gleaming offices. On every major world, alien children learned human languages in school alongside their own. Trade flowed according to human plans. The galaxy was more efficient and productive than it had ever been, but the most important change was not visible to most citizens. Beyond the edge of the galaxy, human exploration fleets pushed into unknown space. They were searching for new civilizations to contact, new species to study, new worlds to bring under human control. Ambassador Jonathan Hayes, now holding the title of Galactic Administrator, often stood on the observation deck of the massive, human command station that orbited the former Galactic Council world. He watched alien ships coming and going, all following human schedules and serving human purposes. Sometimes young human officers asked him how humanity had achieved such complete victory over an entire galaxy. Hayes would smile and give them the same answer every time. We spent 3 years learning everything about them. They spent 3 years learning nothing about us. Knowledge is power, and power is everything. The last entry in the old Galactic Council records before they were replaced by human administrative files contained a warning that would never be read by its intended audience. Note for future civilizations. When humans say they come in peace, prepare for war. The galaxy learned this truth too late. The predators now ruled the stars, and their hunt for new prey had just begun.